welcome back to Suffolk. I'm with the lovely Dawn again, and we are just outside of Felixstowe at a little place called Trimley Marshes Nature Reserve. This is the start of the Stour and Orwell walk. It's a medium length long distance walk that starts from, as I say, just outside Felixstowe and follows the rivers Orwell and Stour and the Shotley Peninsula, and it finishes at Cattawade, which is right on the Essex-Suffolk border, right next door to Manningtree basically. The route is 40 miles in length. I did walk and wildcamp this route many years ago before I had a YouTube channel, and likewise with the Suffolk coast path, I wanted to come back and film it, so I've got it, you know, for memories on the channel. We found this lovely little bird hide / platform that overlooks this magnificent view behind us of all the marshes. The river is behind the camera, so we're using this guidebook. Again, it's the Cicerone guidebook, really good book. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, I just think they do very good guidebooks. And I think it's 4 stages that the route's split into. The first one is Trimley St Martin to Nacton, that's 7 miles. We want to walk a little bit further today. We've got about 7 to 8 hours to walk. We want to start stage 2, Nacton to Orwell Bridge, Ipswich. And that is 4 miles to the big Orwell Bridge. It's a big concrete bridge. At one point it's one of the largest concrete structures in the world, and that spans the River Orwell. We want to try and wild camp on the river somewhere just before that, so we're looking at probably doing about 10 miles today, 10 to 11 miles. If you're thinking of doing this yourself, there is a link from Landguard Point, where the Suffolk coast path ends at Felixstowe. It's mainly industrial area, so it's a bit boring. And yeah, it leads from Landguard Fort at Felixstowe out to here. It's about 1.8 miles, and this guidebook does mention it as well. It's got directions for that. Also, once again, if you're doing this one, you're going to need OS Explorer map 197, Ipswich, Felixstowe and Harwich, Woodbridge and Manningtree. So wild camping on the river, I think we've got 3 nights of wild camping. We are taking my Vango Helvellyn 2-person tent. Dawn insisted we take it despite it being heavier and harder to split up between the 2 packs. The OEX Fox 2 is more of a summer tent. It's very lightweight, compact, but it doesn't keep the wind out very well. It can get chilly in there, according to Dawn. The weather is meant to be really good for the next 4 days. It's meant to be really mild, but fingers crossed it stays that way. Who knows, out on the river estuaries it could get, you know, windy, you know, there could be some rain coming in. We'll see what happens. We're going to be finishing this route on Tuesday, which is Valentine's Day. So we planned that as a way of celebrating Valentine's Day together. We thought, let's do a long distance walk and knacker ourselves. Yeah, that's the plan.
This way.
It is. We've got loads of dehydrated food to try. Some of them we've not had before, so we'll be trying those out. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, we've got plenty of food. We don't really need to stop anywhere for food. We've got enough. We've not really got much alcohol because it's a lot to carry. So I think I've got 1 Jubal peach beer and a can of Jack Daniels and Coke, and that's it. The rest of our drinks we'll just get in pubs. So there's not really going to be a lot of side reviews on these videos. Anyways, yeah, this is part 1 in the series. Do join us. Enough talking, let's get walking.
The Suffolk Wildlife Trust Reserve at Trimley Marshes was created from arable land in 1990 as an attempt to mitigate the loss of mudflat habitat at Flagbury when the port of Felixstowe was expanded. Traditional grazing is used to manage the wet meadows, and water levels are controlled by means of sluices, creating ideal conditions for wintering widgeon and brent geese, and for breeding oyster catchers, redshank and avocettes in summer. The port of Felixstowe is Britain's largest container port and the fourth largest in Europe, dealing with up to 20,000 containers per month. With easy access to the open sea and water as deep as 13 metres or 43 feet, tankers and container ships of up to 180 metres or 590 feet are able to dock here. The docks first began to grow after World War II, when they were bought up for development by a Norfolk corn merchant. The Stour and Orwell Walk. Stage 1, Trimley St Martin to Nacton, 7 miles. The Stour and Orwell Walk begins at the main car park for Trimley Reserve, the Suffolk Wildlife Trust, at Searsons Farm. Trimley Railway Station, a convenient hub for transport connections at the beginning or end of a walk, is a quarter of a mile north east from here. The first section of the walk runs alongside the perimeter of the Port of Felixstowe container terminal, before passing through the far more peaceful terrain of the Trimley Marshes Nature Reserve and alongside the north bank of the River Orwell, before finally venturing inland to the village of Nacton, just southeast of Ipswich.
Medic! Dog, this bird hasn't got a leg to stand on. Medic! Medic!
In the early 19th century, Levington Village was a centre for digging coprolite, fossilised dung from prehistoric animals that has useful fertilising properties. The coprolite was dug by hand from just beneath the surface, washed and then processed locally for use in the fields. Although the industry has long since declined, a road in Ipswich still bears the name Coprolite Street. Levington Creek was once a working harbour where coal was landed prior to World War I. Levington Lagoon, owned by the Suffolk Wildlife Trust, was created during the damaging East Coast floods of 1953 when a breach was made in the sea wall. It is now one of the best places on the River Orwell for bird watching, with estuarine specialties such as greenshank, spotted redshank, ruff and dunlin present on passage and during winter.
Medic!
Stage 2, Nacton to Orwell Bridge, Ipswich, 4 miles. The origins of the village of Nacton can be traced back to 1010 AD, when Earl Ulfkettle fought off invading Danes, and the dead were buried in the tumuli at Seven Hills, just north of the village by the present day A14. 2 large estates dominate the village. Orwell Park, the seat of Admiral Vernon, famous for introducing the grog ration to the British Navy, and Broke Hall, established by Sir Richard Broke, the Lord Chief Baron of Henry VIII. The only pub in the village, the Anchor, was closed down during World War I by the owner of Orwell Park School. Ipswich, Suffolk's county town, has Anglo-Saxon origins, and the town centre is laid out in a typical Anglo-Saxon road pattern. Ipswich was once an important port and famous for its shipbuilding, but its quays began to silt up in the 18th century. A deep water channel was dredged in 1946 to enable it to continue as a port, although it is unable to cope with boats the size of those that berth in the port of Felixstowe. One of the town's most iconic sites is the 18th century ancient house in the Buttermarket area of the town centre, which is one of the finest examples of pargeting, which is decorative plasterwork, in the country.
It's probably about 6 PM now. It's been a long day's walking, hard going at times. We've made it to Orwell Bridge. We're probably about half a mile from it, if that. We can actually see it in the distance, and we found the Bridge Country Park, and there's a little river beach right on the River Orwell, and we found a spot. Hopefully it's far enough back from the highest tide mark. I mean, the tent shouldn't get touched, but if it does come up high, it will be quite close, but it might not get that close. High tide is at 3:30 AM. I've just looked on willyweather.com, and cheers Willy. Yeah, so we found a little spot next to this tree. Where are we? Yeah, there's a tide mark there. That could be an old one, but the sand is a little bit damp over there, so common sense really. There's another tide mark there. The water is right out at the moment, and then over in the distance you can see the lights reflecting on the water. Orwell Bridge is there. I'll try and get some night lapse footage of it. Try out the GoPro, see if that works. So yeah, we're thinking of just tucking the tent in here. We can sort of use this tree as a table because we've not bought a table, and we can use it to sit on as well because we've not bought chairs. But we have bought 2 alcoholic beverages. Priorities. So we're going to get the tent, the Vango Helvellyn 2-person tent, set up right where Dawn is. both in the tent now. It's about 10:15. It's not particularly cold outside, it's actually really mild. This pitch is on a slope going down that way, so we've packed a load of stuff under my side. We might have to do the same with Dawn's, but then she'll just roll onto me, which is no bad thing. But I think we're just so tired, we're just gonna sleep. Although I said we'll sleep well, yeah, but then we'll wake up in crippling agony. Yeah, it's been a tough first day. I think the first day of a long distance route always is, because you're carrying the most stuff. Oh, excuse me. That's it. That's a good sign. We're going to try and get up early tomorrow, probably about 7:15. Sunrise is about 7:15. And we want to have the sort of the tent packed down. And then we'll have breakfast. Back to the walk. We have done, I believe, 2 stages today. We did stage 1, which was Felixstowe to Nacton. And we've done pretty much Nacton to Orwell Bridge, stage 2. So that is about, well, that is 11 miles we've done today, which isn't bad going. Tomorrow we will be doing stage 3, Orwell Bridge, Ipswich to Pin Mill. Pin Mill is near Chelmondiston, and that section is 10 miles. So we're going to get to Pin Mill. There's a really nice pub there called the Butt and Oyster. They do Adnams beers and ales and their Wild Wave cider. They look like they do a really good fish and chips and peas as well. What are you laughing about now?
Did you say it's called the Butt and Oyster?
The Butt and Oyster, yeah.
Oh, the Button Oyster. I thought you said
The
the Butt and Oyster.
Yeah, the Butt and Oyster.
The Butt, B-U-T-T.
The Butt and Oyster, yeah.
That's quite funny.
Why? I'm going to have to look now and see if it is called, I'm pretty sure it's called that.
Butt, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah, the Butt and Oyster pub. So, no doubt, it would be rude. Like, we'd stop there anyway for a cider, so it's very tempting to get some fish and chips there as well. And then we can fill up with water there, and then we'll look for somewhere to camp. So we'll be camping sort of, hopefully, kind of just before the start of, like, the edge of the Shotley Peninsula. That doesn't really make sense, but before Shotley Gate anyway. Probably opposite, like, the docks, where we started like earlier today. Are you finding this tent warmer than the other one?
Yeah, nice.
You prefer this one, yeah? Good, excellent. That's all right then. As long as you're happy with that.
And then my sleeping bag.
Even though yeah, so Dawn thought her sleeping bag was broke. It turns out, like, both zippers had just come off of the runners, and you can unzip it completely to clean it or air it out. But she was stressing out, going, I've paid too much money for this not to fucking work. Piece of shit sleeping bag. And I went, look, you could just wrap yourself in it. You've got a thermal liner, and you've got your softies, thermal leggings and tops, down jacket. You'll be warm. I even offered her my sleeping bag. And I went, let me have a look. Oh, I've lost the zip. The zip's gone. It's come off. She was a seriously pissed woman, right? I gets in here. When you haven't lost the zip, it's just come off the thing. I took the other zip, moved it back to the bottom, and just reconnected it back on. It was fine. That's what was meant to happen. No, she never said anything. I went, I'm sorry, and all this.
I said thank you.
Did you? I don't remember that. You just looked out from your little band and went, wee, like that, and that was it.
See, that's it. I did say thank you.
All right.
Thank you, my hero.
Oh, I don't know about that anyway. It's fine. Anyway. Crisis averted, people. So, yeah, hope you've enjoyed day 1 of the Stour and Orwell walk with myself and Dawn. Thanks for joining us. Do join us on part 2. I don't know how many parts this will be. And that's it. See you tomorrow for more fun. Enough yawning, and I'll see you in the morning. Night, everyone.
Night.